Your father decided that he should give you formal training. You started touring at the tender age of 11.
How did you know all this?
You were only 18 when you toured the United States with none other than Pandit Ravi Shankar. It has been a long journey.
It has obviously been a long journey, and as journeys are, they are never over. When it comes to art and culture, you're always a student, so you keep learning more and more and more. So when I was 7, I was not even aware of what I was involved in. I was too young to see the greatness of it or the enormous responsibilities of it. By the time when I was 17 or 18, I was a teenager and enjoying all the attention and the glamour and so on of it. So I wasn't, again, as focused on the deep reverence and respect for this art form. It came later when I was more involved on a more intimate basis with great musicians of our time, whether it was Bismillah Khan Saab or Ali Akbar Khan or of course Ravi Shankar ji or various other artists. It dawned on me what an enormous thing that is, and so the learning process in seriousness began only after that.
But interestingly, you are only the second generation musician in your family.
That is
your
correct.
father, the legendary Ustad Allah Rakha Saab, was the first generation, and I read somewhere that your family belonged to a family of farmers.
Yes,
and how did your father suddenly decide
there is still a farm in our family,
really,
which is being tended to by others in our family. My father had 6 other brothers, and he happened to be the oldest brother, and therefore the first one to get into the music world. And then his younger brother followed him into it, and one of the other brothers followed him into it as well. But the other 4 brothers stayed in army or in farming, and so their offsprings, they are still doing that part of the family.
I mean, it appears that your father was already a legend. He was a big name, and he must have already pre-decided that his son is going to be a tabla player, because I have read somewhere when you were a day old, he whispered into your ears the notes of the tabla rather than holy words.
Well, the thing is, you can imagine that every father would want his son to be following in his footsteps.
Yeah.
And my father was no different. But it doesn't mean that he actually decided that I was going to do it. That decision comes from from a very
you have to be destined,
all-powerful being. But he did all he could to be able to point me in the direction that would bring me to the place where I am now. And then it was left to me and to chance and to the decisions made by the forces up there to allow me to be able to find my way through it. And luckily it all worked out and fell in place as my father intended it to be. And so we both, meaning my father and me, we are thankful that it all worked.
How was it like having your guru right at home and watching that most popular duo of Ustad Allah Rakha Saab and Pandit Ravi Shankar, who mesmerized audiences, as I said about you as well, for 3 decades almost?
It's like this. As a young boy, I obviously did not realize how important that was. But as I grew and I watched them play together, it was clear to me that this is something that I really wanted to do myself. And to watch them was like to be part of this incredible creative process, which was not only something very unique, but also it was something very joyful, something very happy. And when I was watching them and I was around them, there was a mile-long smile on my face, like as if I was exactly where I wanted to be as a child. It was the best playpen. It was a great place to hang out.
Right.
And I have to feel that I have to say that I felt that I belonged, that I wanted to be in that environment very much. And the more and more I saw them, the more and more it became obvious. And
now, I'm going to talk to you a little later about your transformation. I mean, now I want to ask you, what is the most important lesson that Ustad Zakir Hussain learned from his legendary father?
Well, not just my father, but all other great musicians that I have been in close contact with. The one thing that they always preach, and that is that there is no such thing as being a master, that you must always be a student willing to learn. And that's always what my father said to me, that son, be a good student. Don't attempt to be a master, because once that thought goes into your head that you're a master, that you're a guru, that you know everything, that's when you stop learning and you stop growing and you stop becoming more enlightened. And that's a bad thing. And so being a student is really the best thing to be, where every day you learn. Every time you leave your home, you see something new, you see something different, and you learn. And that learning process should be the main focus of your life. It's like walking, seeing the horizon. You will never reach it. But the thought always is to be able to go towards it. And for me to try to, be perfect is a thought. It's not something that I know I will achieve. I will never be perfect. But to go towards there is my destiny.
Absolutely.
And that's what I will do. And so that's what I learned.
Absolutely. Like you have inspired musicians across the world. You have also got inspiration from many of the Western classical musicians. You had gone to several of these concerts in your early days. My question to you, Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab, is this: how important are the local sights and sounds? Does it influence a musician's creativity as you grow up?
Every musician is influenced by what he sees around him or her. It is an important input into their creative process. Mm-hmm. If I'm in, say, Assam, and there's Behu.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a different kind of music. It's a music that is very special, it's unique of this part of the country, and it comes from the earth of this country. Every young Assamese grows up with it and knows it and lives his life or her life with these songs. And so they represent the blood of our Mother Earth. And so they are bound to be something that are going to be an important influence. Bhupenda had that influence in him. When he composed music for Bollywood films, Assamese music was the base of it. Mm-hmm. And so similarly for us, playing Indian classical music, watching, say, a horse running, it has a rhythm. Or sitting in a train and the train moving, it has a rhythm. You get caught up into those rhythmic patterns, and you learn, and you hope that you will be able to in some ways utilize that information and transmit it into your tabla and bring it to the audience as something, as an added element of rhythmic patterns that India is all about. So yes, you are influenced by sights, you are influenced by sounds, rain falling, waterfalls, whatever, river flowing. These things are all part and parcel of our, what should I say, inspiration source.
And the journey.
Yeah.
Absolutely. On that note, we shall go for a short break now, but stay on. When I come back, I shall continue my conversation with Ustad Zakir Hussain Sahab.
বিশ্বাস কৰাৰ আগতে পৰীক্ষাটো কৰি লও মেডাম।
পতঞ্জলি হানিক পৰীক্ষা কৰা হৈছে বিশ্বৰ প্ৰসিদ্ধ লেবত, আৰু পতঞ্জলি হানিয়ে পাছ কৰিছে বিশুদ্ধতাৰ 100ৰো অধিক ইন্টাৰনেশ্যনেল পেৰামিটাৰ্ছ। সেইটো হৈছে মোৰ বিশুদ্ধতাৰ নায়ক
পতঞ্জলি হানি, 100ৰ ভিতৰত 100।
মোৰ ছাল যেন কবিতা, কাৰণ ইয়াৰ চিৰসংগী ইটালিয়ান অলিভ অইল আৰু ভেষজৰ গুণেৰে সমৃদ্ধ জেক অলিভ অইল বডি অইল।
কবিতাৰ দৰে ছালে জগাই তোলে মনত নতুন সুৰ।
শ্যাম ষ্টীল ফ্লেক্সি ষ্ট্ৰং TMT বাৰ,
য'ত কেৱল ষ্ট্ৰেংথে নহয় ফ্লেক্সিবিলিটিও আছে।
যেতিয়া TMT ফ্লেক্সি ষ্ট্ৰং,
তেতিয়া ঘৰ চিৰদিনৰ কাৰণে ষ্ট্ৰং।
Welcome back. I am in conversation with the living legend Ustad Zakir Hussain. Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab, how important is it for a classical musician to keep reinventing himself or herself, particularly in today's world when we have so many influences of modern music? I won't say Western music, modern music of all sorts.
Well, there is much more of an emphasis upon popular artists to reinvent themselves more regularly than Indian classical artists. You must be seeing Madonna, for instance, as a great pop star. every so many years or so, her hair has changed, her dress has changed, the new lenses have been put in, all kinds of things. Sometimes she's into yoga, sometimes she's into something else, sometimes she's into science or Christianity and whatnot, anything. So the whole point is to be able to show to the people that there is something different about her this year or next year.
Accepted. But that is only the outward look. What about the content? How can you transform the content, or how important is it to content your core thing, that is your music?
When you are hanging out with a friend and then you meet another person and you interact with that other person, your thought process goes with that flow, and therefore some new ideas emerge in your head, having a conversation with a different person.
Yeah.
Similarly, if you reinvent yourself, you become somebody else. Say you follow Buddhism. Obviously, those thought processes become part and parcel of your life at that moment. And therefore, you start behaving a certain way, moving a certain way. Maybe you start chanting some mantras. Maybe those mantras become part of a song that you do. So all these things do influence. Indian classical music, however, teaches us to be able to be true to the tradition, to be true to what you've learned.
But what about the flexibility in Indian classical
But
music?
that's
Otherwise,
what
it
I
is
was-
not classical musicians are not going to survive in today's.
That's what I was getting to. What happens is, even though we are taught that we have to be true to the tradition, we are also told in our learning process to be doing something new with it, something fresh with it.
So you are not afraid of that.
So basically, it's a contradiction. Stay true to the tradition, but do something new.
Yet change.
Yet change.
Keep changing.
So how do you manage that? So obviously, in order to do that, you have to learn. You have to keep learning. You have to keep approaching new old masters from various parts of the country. Analyze and absorb as much information as possible. When it comes to being able to reinvent yourself, that's only for your commercial art purposes. I mean, people having seen me for 20 years may get used to me and may not want to come again. So at that point, I may have to do something different that may bring them back to me, or remind them that I still exist. So that, when it comes to being the commercial aspect of art form, yes, you do have to reinvent yourself. When it comes to me, I've reinvented myself many ways, by acting in films, by doing
Composing
TV,
music.
composing music, doing TV ads, etc., etc.
But
I've
you
done
have
all
also,
that.
You have also gone into electronica.
All that I've done, but when it comes to my basic, the essence of the information that's within me, that's the traditional art form. That has not changed. So when I get on the stage to play my classical music, I still play that. But the fact is that all these other elements that I've added to myself have made me a little bit more interesting to the people.
Absolutely. You are a famous tabla player, but today there are about 200 to 300, maybe 500 young tabla players. Some of them are extremely good, who are becoming famous, and how do you look at them?
I think this is a great thing, because you see, for any art or any activity to survive, you need bench strength. I mean, any team that has more all-rounders or more bowlers that you can call upon, or more batters, that is a team that will survive or go ahead to win. When you look at sitar, or you look at vocal, or you look at sarod or flute or anything, there are few, two or three like that. But when you go to tabla, there's at least 20 incredible tabla players. And when I say incredible, they are just as good as me, if not better. I'm telling you, this is a fact.
Generous,
no, but it's a fact. It's a fact. They are. See, the point is, just because I'm famous, that doesn't mean I'm better. It just means that what I do resonates with people at this point.
I've read a very interesting bit, that you keep coming to India, every 3-4 months you tour, and you travel the remotest part, and you said in your own humble manner that you wanted to keep yourself familiar with the crowd. You apparently go to the Marathwada region, play before the farmers who at the end of their hard day's work. Why do you do that? Do you need to do that, really?
As I said, it's the earth that gives us our information. Like Behu in Assam. I mean, if I don't go to the remote corners of our country and listen to the music there, be with the people there, I would not know their way of life. I would not know what they sing to themselves. I would not know what rhythms they dance to. And if I don't know that, I cannot communicate with them. And I needed to be able to do that in order to be representing my art and culture. So if I'm an Indian artist, I must know India inside and out. And so I love to go to remote parts of India, be it Manipur or Assam or somewhere in the south, in the remote regions of Kerala, in the hills or something, whatever. It teaches me. It brings me closer to people who have something to offer that I can learn and become more enriched as an artist.
Exactly. On that note, we shall go for another short break. Stay on. We'll be right back.
প্ৰতিগৰাকী মাকৰ এটাই প্ৰিয় বস্তু সোৱাদেৰে পূৰ্ণ কিন্তু স্বাস্থ্যকৰ পেট ভৰাই খোৱা খাদ্য মাৰ আশীৰ্বাদৰ প্ৰতিগৰাকী মা কৰে ভৰসা মাতৃ স্নেহেৰে ভৰা পতঞ্জলি বিশুদ্ধ গৰু গাখীৰৰ ঘিউ
মোৰ ছাল যেন কবিতা কাৰণ ইয়াৰ চিৰসংগী ইটালিয়ান অলিভ অইল আৰু ভেষজৰ গুণেৰে সমৃদ্ধ জেক অলিভ অইল বডি অইল
কবিতাৰ দৰে চালে জগাই তোলে মনত নতুন সুৰ
সুগন্ধ ৰং আৰু সোৱাদ খাটি এভৰিডে দিয়ে আহাৰৰ জুতি এভৰিডে স্পাইচেছ 100% টেষ্ট এভৰিডে স্পাইচেছ বেষ্ট
Welcome back. I'm still in conversation with Ustad Zakir Hussain. Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab, how do you feel when today you hear talk about people discussing religion, discussing the discourse, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, or a masjid is attacked, or a church is attacked, or a temple is attacked, people killing people in the name of religion? How do you think, what thoughts cross your mind?
Our ancient forefathers lived in a different time. That time was a time where you were responsible for your own life, your own protection, your own welfare, if you may say so. So the way of life was different. Everybody carried swords, knives, some went hunting for food and everything and so on. That spawned a whole different idea of being able to live, territorial ideas. And so it required that, we guarded ourselves and we conquered territories because we needed X, Y, and Z to be able to survive or to prosper, etc., etc. Today's times are different, and I'm sad that human beings haven't understood that. Today, we are much more in need of re-understanding what we knew 50 years ago. The world knows that we are all human beings at heart. We are all basically the same people at heart. All we want to do is live well. All we want to do is be able to survive and secure the future for our family and be able to have a decent lifestyle. That's all we want to do. And in order to do that, we go out in the world and we live and then find our way and ply our trade.
Absolutely. But can music do something to bridge this divide, to infuse some sense into the mind of the people?
I don't think anything can do anything except the human being, the human race themselves.
But you need catalysts to start a human race, isn't it?
Why do we need a catalyst? Do you think any differently about your fellow human being if he's a Hindu? Or
Certainly not.
Exactly.
Certainly not.
So there are millions of us.
No, but if everybody would have thought like that, there would have been no problems.
But that's the whole point. Everybody needs to think like that. And if you believe in universality of humanity, we all have our own way of living the same kind of life.
Now you see, it was in the early 70s. It's 70s that you collaborated with great Western musicians. For example, the guitar great John McLaughlin and others. And today, when you perform in the West, do you get some, because of lack of time, I'm shifting from one question to another. I'm sorry about that. Do you get a sense that Indian classical music at times is more appreciated better abroad than perhaps in India?
No, I don't see that. If it was true, if that was the case, you wouldn't be sitting here interviewing me. I play Indian classical music.
Absolutely.
Okay. So Indian classical, just yesterday I was having a similar conversation with somebody in Kolkata, and the conversation, made us realize that over the past 40 years, the audiences for pop music, commercial music, have grown by about 30%. That means they've gone from having 5,000 people in the hall to say about 8,000 people in the hall. Okay, The audience for Indian classical music, this is worldwide,
Yeah.
have grown 300%.
That's no comparison at all.
No, they have gone from having 300 people in the audience to as much as 6,000, 8,000, 7,000 people in the audience to come to see them play. And this is worldwide. I mean, there are artists who play concerts, say, in New York's famous Carnegie Hall, and it's sold out. Amjad Ali Khan Sahab or myself or Hari Prasad Chaurasia ji or somebody, and there's 2,000 people sitting in the hall. Or I just played at the Madison Square Garden in New York City, and that's 6,000 seats, and those were sold out. I mean, so that's there, and having played in, say, Pune just recently for 10,000 people, or in Chennai for 7,000 people. So this is Indian classical music.
Absolutely.
Going from 300 to 400 people in a concert 30, 40 years ago to this. So it has grown tremendously. So what I have to say is that the appreciation for Indian art and culture has grown by leaps and bounds in India, and similarly grown by leaps and bounds outside of India. It's one of the most recognized form of music on the globe.
Lastly, Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab, you have done everything. You have played with famous musicians all around the world. You have done solo. You have won your collaborative projects have won Grammy Awards, you have won the Padma Bhushan, you have won the highest music award in the United States for classical musicians. And what next? You have also acted in films, scored music, of course, as I have said. What next? What are you working on?
The learning process continues. I mean, you have to understand that tabla is one of the youngest instruments in our tradition. It's only about 300 years old, and only in the last 120 or 130 years it has come into prominence. So it still needs to be sorted out. It still needs to find its way. It still needs to be refined, experimented with, and so on and on. So that still needs to happen. When it comes to me personally, there's a lot more to learn. Every time I play with a new musician, his way of thinking shows me a new nook or corner in my music that I may have ignored. So that information has still to be sorted out.
Absolutely.
So being a student is of prime importance, and that will continue, and I'm hoping that there'll be a lot more to learn.
Absolutely. We are waiting to see more magic out of the tabla from your hands, Ustad Zakir Hussain Saab. Thank you very much for being here.
What a pleasure to see you.
Pleasure
Take care.
having you here.
শ্ৰদ্ধাৰ ৰাজ্যৰ দুৰ্বল আৰু দৰিদ্ৰ শ্ৰেণীৰ লোকক সকাহ দিবলৈ